Follow me, pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, David, roll call. We're missing a few.
Yes, we're missing a few. Wyeth Irving is not here. Kathy Barter's not here, and Kent Porter's not here, though we do have a quorum. We require 4 members to have a quorum.
Okay, and nobody else is
and
online.
No Shirley.
Nobody is online.
Correct.
Okay. The item 3 consent agenda. If everyone had a chance to read over them, and do I have any issues with what was prepared?
I have no issues.
All right, need a motion?
I motion to approve consent agenda as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right. Let's go on to item 4A is a code amendment to amend land uses allowed in the M industrial zoning district. David.
Yeah, I do have some staff comments.
Okay.
So the city was recently contacted about a proposed combined athletic training facility and healthcare facility under one roof in Innovation Business Park. It's an area that's zoned industrial. Indoor sports and recreation is a permitted land use in the industrial zoning district, but healthcare clinics and offices are not permitted uses in the industrial zoning district. Staff thinks that there's some good synergy there where you have athletic training and then you have medical professionals on site that can help with injuries or help with the training, proper form, things like that. And so staff proposed an amendment to that code that would allow healthcare clinics and offices in the industrial zoning district. We also thought if we're going to go through a code amendment, maybe there were some other uses that we have thought that might also benefit from being included in industrial districts. And when we talked about Black Clay Electric rezoning a couple of months ago, gas stations were one of those that I brought up before that I thought would be appropriate in industrial districts. So I've included that in the code amendment. And then also banks and hotels or motels. Maybe not things you typically see in an industrial area, but maybe some uses that could benefit. I've left some examples in the packet. There's Quick Trip on Front Street. Actually in Pleasant Valley, there's the Casey's out in front of the big industrial building on Pleasant Valley Road in Liberty. Hotel, useful to have a hotel nearby where drivers might need to spend the night, or you have somebody from out of town come in and would like to have them close by.
Sure.
So we thought those might be appropriate uses as well. So staff added that to the code amendment. And we looked at some other communities, and if you want to talk more about that, I can let you know. But there are some of the cities we looked at allow those as permitted uses. One of those we looked at allows them as a conditional use, but they allow them as conditional use in even the business districts also. So basically they just don't treat them different. It doesn't appear that they treat them different in an industrial area than if they were in a regular business area. So staff would recommend approval of an amendment to section 405.505A, which are the permitted uses in the industrial zoning district, to include number 26, automobile service stations with or without gasoline sales, 27, financial institutions, including drive-through banks, 28, healthcare clinics or offices, and 29, hotel and motels. The language I use there we're just repeating the way they are called in other sections, so didn't want to create a new classification. Planning and Zoning Commission can move to approve with changes. For example, if there was one of the land uses that you did think was appropriate, we could just amend the motion and or deny the application. There's a sample motion at the bottom of the staff memo. Hopefully this time I did a pretty decent job of preparing it. And this is, since the code amendment, there's a public hearing scheduled today. Sure. So you want to open the floor for public comment.
Okay, thank you, David. All right, we'll open up the floor for public comments. And we will close the floor for public comments. And then we'll talk about it amongst the board here. I've seen something similar to this down where I work in New Century, where they built a soccer complex, indoor soccer complex, but it's also got room for growth around it, like office space. And it gets used all the time. I mean, almost daily. I think they have a gym in there as well. And office, or meeting places where you can rent it out and have meetings or whatever. So it's right in the middle of industrial airport. So I've seen it. Doesn't seem to be affecting anything.
No, so we Summit, we have these mix of uses in there as well in industrial, and it really, they go hand in hand. Like you said, the sports facility and the training facility. One question I had on that: which one's the primary, and which one's is there a primary? Is it?
I don't think there really is one. If there was a primary, then we could look at it like, well, maybe this is just as. But yeah.
I'm in agreement. It makes sense. Let's just do it. I was just curious.
My thought was whether or not one was under the other or not.
Right.
I would think somebody that knows how to operate an athletic facility might not have the skill or to run the medical side, and so there would probably be two different groups that would work hand in hand.
Yeah.
Was it going to be like basketball? I'm just curious if that makes no difference, decision.
We get more detail on that. When I think athletic training, I think of maybe court for basketball, softball, baseball, soccer.
Like a field house type.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We're seeing a lot of those come through. Sure.
And every one of them's packed.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
They're just.
Absolutely.
They're expensive.
Well, youth sports is a big deal.
Yeah, big business.
It is.
Yeah, we have baseball, softball, we have basketball, we're getting volleyball, basketball. We have one that's coming with a full infield diamond inside.
So is this amending all for the entire city, for all industrial?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not just this specific.
Right. This would not be restricted just to Innovation Business Park. It would be a change to the permitted uses in the industrial zoning. So anywhere that's zoned industrial would be an opportunity. We're thinking down the road too. We may get development down at the new interchange. Maybe further down the road we'll have another interchange, and so there may be additional opportunity years down the road. It's a little flexibility for development.
But still called industrial, just with this amendment. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other comments? Entertain a motion for this one.
Chair, I'd make a motion to recommend approval to the Board of Aldermen to amend section 405.55.A, permitted uses in the industrial zoning district as recommended by staff.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? That motion also carries. All right, moving on to item B, discussion items continued.
Yeah. No, I kind of separated those out with some separate memos, and I plan to keep my comments somewhat brief. On the solar panels issue, we had an initial discussion after there's a state statute that prohibits homeowners associations from prohibiting or adversely affecting the installation and operation of solar panel facilities in residential areas. And back at that time, B&Z was asked if we as the city should consider a code amendment to restrict solar panels from being installed on the front building elevations of houses, or should we require some additional screening for ground-mounted units that are located in the backyard. So at the November, I think it was the November meeting, or September-October meeting, staff was asked to poll realtors and ask what their experiences were. Provided a memo at the November meeting with comments from 3 realtors that we received at that November meeting. It was tabled until a future meeting date, and I thought today would be an appropriate date to have that. We are lacking a few people, but planning and zoning can still make a decision on whether or not we should prepare an amendment. It's not a public hearing tonight. I'm just seeking comments from planning and zoning on what direction we might want to take, if any,
So we're not
related
sending
to
any,
that.
we're not sending anything to the alderman?
Not as far as an ordinance at this point.
Okay.
If planning and zoning wants us to prepare an ordinance, then, staff would prepare an ordinance and bring it back for consideration. And then that ordinance might go to the Board of Aldermen.
Gotcha.
In the initial meeting back, I think it was July, or when we had our first discussion, I included some information about other cities and what they require, and we're really consistent with other cities. We might even be just a little bit more restrictive. If you look at it, we require installations to meet certain setbacks. Others require shorter setbacks. We require flush-mounted roof installations, and you can't exceed the peak of the roof. And some cities allow flush-mounted, but no greater distance, like 2 feet from above the roof, not above the peak, but the flush mounting can extend out, 2 up to 4 feet from the roof, and ours isn't that drastic. But we're pretty consistent with other cities at this point.
I see that it says the new state law prohibited solar panels when a new state law related to solar panels went into effect beginning of the year, right?
Which would have been last year, not this year.
2023, prevents the homeowners association from prohibiting the installation of, impairing the function of, or adversely affecting the cost of solar panels. And it further states down here that they can, homeowners associations may adopt reasonable rules. What would be a reasonable rule, as opposed to saying, no, we don't want it in our, what's reasonable?
I would say probably something similar to what the city requirements are, like you install them on the roof, but have them flush mounted. I don't really know that, I guess.
So I know, I have did a little research on that. They are taking it back to clarify that, because what the language is somewhat subjective.
Yeah.
Adversely affect its functioning. What does that mean?
Right.
A lawyer wrote that. Use, adversely affect its functioning, use, cost, or efficiency. So I got some comments on this one.
Mm-hmm.
You have to bear with me since I wasn't here on the original conversation. I may be repeating some stuff that was asked or already answered, but you said you reached out to 5 realtors and three responded. So, thank you staff for doing that. Did we reach out to anybody other than realtors, any trade organizations, the Home Builders Association, KC?
They hadn't done that.
Local, state, or national appraisers?
No, I hadn't done that.
State or national real estate, or just the local real estate?
Just realtors, yeah. P&Z asked us to contact them.
2 out of the 3 basically said, the first one said, I haven't seen anything affect the sale. One of them said that, give a real world example, they just closed on a $400,000 plus home. Homeowners basically said it didn't affect them from making their offer. They would have made that offer of the house they love, whether that ceiling across. The third comment was a little problematic. They said solar panels are not something most people want to look at. Well, that's a pretty broad, subjective statement with little actual data backing that up. So it'd be hard to make that statement speaking for a vast majority without any kind of data to back that up. So I have a hard time with that statement. Has the city received any complaints, or is this just kind of a proactive approach?
We were asked
By citizens or
by the board.
Board of Aldermen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it's more of a proactive approach than anything. So are we talking about all solar panels, just electrical solar? Because right now I got solar panels on my Ring camera on my front of my house.
Mm-hmm.
Is this going to affect that?
No,
Would it affect Spotlight?
well, no.
They're solar panels.
I know your point.
So I'm really starting.
If it was an enforcement type of situation, it would be if someone were to install solar panels to power their house and provide additional energy maybe into the grid.
Right.
And
So I know there are limitations on regulations when it comes to utilities. We can't say you can't put a solar panel on the front of your house. It's a utility. The federal government regulates that. Have we checked with any of our attorneys on the legality of regulating these as opposed to when it comes to utilities?
hadn't got to that point yet.
No?
That might save us a lot of
Yeah,
time,
having
because that is,
prepared-
the issue was, there are people that feel like it's really tacky if you can see them from the front of the house.
Right. And I understand.
And me too, except for I can see the backs of all kinds of people's
Right.
houses, from all kinds of places, so if that's the tacky issue,
Right.
in my
I mean,
opinion, you're just
This is where kind of
tumble down a hole.
it's a rabbit hole, right? There's a lot of, I hate shutters. I don't like the way they look on houses. They're ineffective. They're disproportionate to the windows. But, you know, where do you stop? You know,
I think a house looks naked without shutters.
right? So it's all subjective. So really, you know, there's a lot of good data out there on solar panels, right? You know, one of the comments that I had is here, you know, the state saw fit to adopt regulations regulating HOAs. Why would they eventually, I mean, obviously something had to trigger that, right? The state just doesn't do preemptive strikes without
Someone had a bestie that sold solar panels.
that, or
Lobbyists, and they
an
passed,
HOA came in heavy-handed and said no, and
My money's on the lobby.
yeah. So you know, if we come too heavy-handed with it, they're just going to preempt the city. So they do that. They've done that with cell towers. They've done that with a lot of other stuff. You know, pulling out actual hard data. You know, a study by the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, which is part of the Department of Energy, homes with solar panels sell 20% faster than homes without solar panel. The same study found that, you know, homes with a 3.1 kilowatt system adds an average of $17,000 to the property value. The same National Renewable Energy Laboratory, you know, for every $20, your home value increases $20 for every dollar you save on your utility and energy bills. So you're just adding, you know, there's just tons of research out there. Pew Research found 8% of the U.S. homeowners had already installed solar panels. 39% of respondents to that study had given serious thought to installing solar panels. 67% of a 21 study found that homeowners buying. Sorry, read my notes here. Sorry, a 2021 housing trend report found that 67% of homeowners considered energy efficiency to be very to extremely important in the you know, purchase of that home. Let's see what else I got. 92% of homeowners who have installed consider doing it to save that money. You know, we start throwing on regulations and you know, dictating where these things can be, it makes it less cost effective, less attractive. You know, there's a federal tax credit program that gives you up to 30% of your installation costs back. If we're putting those, you know, saying, well, you can't put it on south facing, or you can't put it in the optimal place, you have to put it somewhere else because the way it looks or is perceived to look by some people, you know, now we're saying we're costing homeowners money. It may not be effective to put it on a different side. So, yeah, you know, and just like I said, I might not like my neighbor's mailbox. I might not like their metal garage they put up, but it's their property. You know, there's some homeowner property rights that I feel, you know, within reason, you should be able to do what you want on your property. Because I might not like the way your house looks, doesn't say, you know, I don't own your property, I don't pay your mortgage, I don't pay your tax bill. So I wouldn't want someone to tell me, hey, you know, because the way it looks, I don't want you to put up an effective utility on your house, or help you save money, or, increase the value of your property. I mean, these systems are not cheap. Someone is not going to spend $30,000 to $60,000 putting a system in, and it's not going to, that doesn't lower your property value. And the reason I brought up appraisers earlier, because if you ask an appraiser, is this investment on my property going to affect the property value on a neighbor property? They won't answer you. There's too many factors in there, right? I have a hard time believing if I'm going to invest $50,000 on my property, that's going to negatively affect your property. If anything, it's going to help bring up your property just by the proximity. So I wouldn't be in support of recommending any ordinance change. I think what we have now is adequate. We don't have these coming out of the woodworks. We don't have a lot of complaints. So I would not support an amendment.
I mean, I already am okay with it as it is. I think it's a shame that the state said HOA, because that's the part of the HOA is so that you can say, I want to live in a community where you can't do certain things, and I want it to be regulated. That's why you buy into an HOA community. So I think it's sad that they chose to do that. But as far as the city, nobody's been able to convince me that they will drive down because part of our job is to make sure that the community looks the way the residents want it to. I think that's there's an atmosphere and a culture, and we want it to have a feel, and that's important to our citizens, but no one's been able to convince me that the solar panels do that. And I do think if you're going to say, well, it can't be street facing, then we're going to have to get really particular about what's street facing, because I was just taking my kid to school, and I was like, I can see the backs of everybody's houses, and my house, the front and the back face a road because of where it's positioned. I still don't want solar panels, but it's I don't know that we have a clear line, so I'm not in favor of change. I'm okay with the ordinance the way it is right now, and it matches our fellow peer communities. So.
Yeah, and I'll echo that too. We're in line with everybody, and that's a good thing. We don't want to be the outliers. We are a soul smart community, right? Mm-hmm. So increasing regulation, will that affect our accreditation?
I don't know if we will or not. We'd have to forward them our any change.
Part of that is to make solar more obtainable, correct? So adding regulations kind of counterproductive to that certification, right?
Yeah, it's kind of ironic they helped us create a permit for the permit to use, and it almost seems like it's more restrictive than what our regular permit would have been, but that's okay.
Yeah, it streamlines the process so there's consistency. Yeah. But
did I read something in there, David? If the solar panels are not being used, that can they just leave them up there? Are they supposed to take them down? Did I read that in here?
I think there's a requirement at some point that you've got to dismantle after so long.
How would you monitor that? Would that be
you would.
Great question.
It's almost unenforceable unless it falls into disrepair, and then it's a property maintenance case.
And that's when to me that's when the house becomes it affects property values of other houses. I mean, a chain link fence in the front yard is effective, but we don't allow them either because they're unsightly. So, yeah, I don't know that we need to make it
I guess, and I always fall back on the health, safety, and welfare. How is this affecting our health, safety, and welfare? Because that's where we draw our powers from. And in all honesty, the appearance of my roof, I have a hard time wrapping the health, safety, and welfare blanket around that.
I do when it comes to solar panels. Now, if it's busted up and looks bad, then actually then you get the sort of the broken window, right, where people different. Don't feel as safe.
That is different.
But yeah,
but just regulating stuff based on appearance.
I look at solar panels. I'm like, man, those people spent some money.
Right. So, I look at it no one wants a cell tower in their backyard, but we all want cell phone coverage. But we don't see cell towers anymore, right?
Yeah.
They're there. it's the whole idea of go away green and background blue, right? No Disney fans? Anyways, so Disney came up with two colors to make stuff in the background go away. And it's called go away green and background blue. So there's stuff back there, you see it, but you don't consciously notice it. Cell phone towers the same way, street lamps, you drive down 5G, 6G street lamps, cell town on top of street lamps now. You don't see them anymore because they're so commonplace. Sectionalizers or transformers for electricity, it's just so commonplace. So solar panels is going to be that same way, right? You're going to have solar panels up there. You'll see them, but you won't notice them. So like I said, I have a hard time with it. And I'm good with that as is.
Yeah.
Our anti-people aren't here though. Though you didn't like them on the front of the houses either. It's my memory.
No, you know what, this has changed my mind a little bit. I'm still, I notice them, I also notice cell towers when they're, when they're stuck in the neighborhood but I can see the point you've made, and I certainly won't like it if my neighbor right across the street, whose front of his house faces south, and it's a big ranch, and he plasters the whole roof with panels. I wouldn't be happy with that, but then again, I've not seen it. So if it's, if it's there and it masks the roof, it might be okay. But I envision is kind of 3 of them here and 3 of them on the other side, and and then just look like somebody, I've got X number of dollars to spend, and that's what we'll do.
One of these days, when Elon Musk creates creates a cost-effective
It'd be nice.
solar shingle.
They're coming, hopefully.
There's no real action needed, right, David?
I was kind of thinking maybe a motion would be okay, but
I make a motion to do nothing about to not recommend a change to the current solar panel ordinance. Would that be
Would be okay, yeah.
So if I heard that, you're making a motion to recommend that we maintain status quo with
Yeah.
the existing.
Yes.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right. I guess that carried. All right.
We have a quorum, so.
Absolutely. Next would be item 2 under item B there, backyard chickens, hens.
I'm not going to be as quiet on chickens.
I promise I don't have as many notes on chickens.
And it's a similar thing with the chickens. Now, actually, staff prepared an amendment back in July that came before Planning and Zoning Commission. Planning and Zoning Commission recommended that it not be an ordinance that was approved, so it was forwarded to the Board of Aldermen with a recommendation not to be approved. And they had some discussion at the Board of Aldermen meeting, and it was noted by them that some of the P&Z members maybe were open to chickens, but didn't like the ordinance as it was written and presented. And so the board has essentially remanded it back to P&Z, say, here's an opportunity for the Planning and Zoning Commission to prepare an ordinance that maybe they would support if they wanted to prepare one and bring it back up to the Board of Aldermen. There's some additional discussion by the board related to lot sizes and screening and or setbacks from property lines or structures and HOAs. Most HOAs have requirements that that don't allow chickens and other types of animals other than your typical dogs and cats, and that they have a difficult time enforcing those requirements, that and other requirements that they might have. So at the September meeting, we were talking about solar panels, and the Planning and Zoning Commission said, hey, are there some realtors that you can contact about what they've really seen? We were asked to pose the similar question to them about chickens. So those 3 realtors that submitted comments about solar panels also submitted about chickens, and 1 or 2 of them might have integrated their comments together, not had them separated out. At the November meeting, this item was tabled, so I put it on tonight's agenda as well. And so staff is just looking for direction. If there is an ordinance that Planning and Zoning Commission wants prepared, please provide comments, and I can prepare something and bring it back to Planning and Zoning Commission, and then that could be forwarded up to the Board of Aldermen. Not sure what those requirements might be. Give me some comments, but I put back in that old ordinance and stuck that back in the packet for today as a starting point, if there's a starting point needed.
Where's that at?
My view has not changed. I'm against it. Even if it's approved and you try to control it, who's going to measure the setbacks? Who's going to measure the size of the coop? Who's going to determine what the coop, if it's made with the proper materials? And I just think sitting on my back porch, and if I have chickens on both sides, there is no way that my house is worth what it was before those were put there. Absolutely no way that I can imagine. And I guess, and I know it must be different now, but I can remember, and it's been 50 years since I was in my grandparents' chicken coop, but it's not a pleasant place when it's been raining and there's mud and no grass or anything, and it just, aesthetically, I just don't think it's something that we want in our backyards. That's just my own biased opinion, I guess. I don't know.
How many do we have in town right now, that you know of?
Legally, none.
Yeah,
Right.
I would say legally none.
I know
Now,
there are some.
There's
do
some
we,
out there.
do we drive up and down the street and look
Sure.
for them? Not
I
necessarily.
didn't
We
know if you
rely
had
on
any-
people to let us know that they're there.
Had
so
any
that we can
complaints
enforce it.
from the neighbors of the ones that may or may not exist?
I don't
You don't hear anything?
know. If we did, then we would
Sure.
contact them about,
Right.
and it used to be that it would happen about every year, once every year, or every 2 years, we'd have a complaint from somebody.
So I don't feel as strongly about chickens as I do solar panels. I just had some questions on the ordinance that was presented before. So these are chickens would only be allowed by this ordinance only at single-family homes?
Yes.
Yes, I believe so.
With really big lots too,
Half-acre
right?
lot.
Half-acre lot?
Yeah.
Where do we get the half-acre from?
That was a,
I just kind of grabbed the number
Okay.
because staff was, I was
A
tasked
line in
with
the sand
preparing,
somewhere. Okay.
prepare an ordinance, and you got to start somewhere.
What if, so it says single-family residential lots, what if it's and I don't know if we have them here, but a single-family residentially zoned lot that has a duplex on it, it's legal non-conforming?
It was written single-family zoning, no,
It says single-family residential
well,
lots.
let's see. It doesn't make a reference to zoning, so
Yeah.
staff would look at it as, is it a single-family home? If it's a duplex, then,
on a
there'd be a permit, there would be a permit process, so you have to go through a permit, and that'd be one of the review criteria. If it's a rental, you'd have to have property owner authorization too.
So I guess to answer your question, how would we monitor the setbacks through that permit process, right?
Right, there would be a
They would
permit.
have to attest that we're meeting all setbacks, and then it's just like anything else, they get the benefit of the doubt until they violate.
Mhm.
It's kind of like how we're gonna regulate someone's speed when they drive. Well, we're going to give them the benefit of the doubt until they break the law. So I guess to your end, see that working. We do have a full-time animal control officer now, right?
Yeah, we noted in there, issued for a 1-year period, so you've got to renew the permit every year.
Are we getting, we already answered this, are we getting complaints 1 year?
Not recently, but we average about 1 or 2 a year. And we've had some board members on to hear, or the Board of Aldermen say, hey, I know that there are chickens, yeah, but let us know where there are chickens so that we can follow up with that.
Usually you just hear the rooster.
Yeah.
Yeah, other states.
You know, and
And that would not be allowed under
Right,
the ordinance.
right.
I mean, in all honesty, you spend a lot of money to get cheap eggs when you get backyard chickens. And I am a proponent of urban farming. You know, I'm all for letting people provide food, you know, healthy food without all the chemicals, pesticides in the factory farming that we have today. I think the regulations here, they're consistent with other communities. I think they're a little more restrictive, honestly. That half acre, that's huge. I mean, how many, just, I don't know if you crossed the numbers, but that cuts out.
That's probably where
Our
I did it.
standard zoning lot is 75 by 110, which is
I mean, that's going
a
to cut out.
quarter of an acre, roughly a quarter, a fifth to a
2/10.
quarter of an
Yeah,
acre.
that's going to cut out a large majority of the population or property. So,
Probably the reason.
you know, it'd be interesting to see a map
So
where
your
this would
half
go
acre
out.
lots would be older neighborhoods, cul-de-sacs where you have the triangle shape.
Yeah.
Might go back far enough where that would qualify.
You know, and to the point of the property value, again, you know, you may not like chickens, but the next guy that moves in may like chickens. We're talking about 3 birds, right? I mean,
6. Well,
Three.
again,
I mean, part of the
as
reason.
written.
oh, I'm sorry,
Part of the reason
yeah,
it
no,
didn't
I'm sorry,
pass
yeah.
was,
3.
some people that was too restrictive.
It is a little
there.
restricted, but my view is let's get our foot in the door and see how it works. Just if we were to pass this, it's not going to open the floodgates. People are not going to run out and buy all the chickens at Orchlands or whatever it's called now, Tractor Supply.
Tractor Supply.
You know, tomorrow we're not going to get a flood of chickens coming into the town. So I'm good with it being a little more restrictive and see how it works out, and then we can always walk it back, right? We can always make it more restrictive.
And we have homeowners associations now that do restrict or
Yeah.
prohibit it, right?
Yeah, and again,
That would be an enforcement issue.
Sure.
Because a lot of
Sure.
people live in a neighborhood that has covenants or restrictions, but not an HOA,
yeah,
not an active HOA.
and I purposely bought my house because there's no HOA. I don't.
Or it's not active.
It's not active. There's deed restrictions, but it's not active, and it won't be active. But so, you know, I'm good with the way this is written. You know, let's people want it. It's a kind of a newer trend. It's not that new. It's been around for quite a few years. It's gained popularity. I'd say pre-pandemic it was gaining a lot of popularity. You know, when I worked for Overland Park 10 years ago, we were having the same conversation. To your point, yes, chicken coops can be dirty and nasty. So can someone's backyard has a couple dogs. And then we have nuisance ordinances, correct? We have people to go out and address any kind of nuisance violation. So we have the property maintenance and we have those nuisance violations or nuisance ordinance to address unsanitary and property maintenance issues. So I don't see this much different than someone who has 3 dogs, who doesn't take care of their yard either. So I would be, you know.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
I think getting it enforced is going to be hard. I'm thinking of a place that's not very far from here that it just shouldn't be.
And I understand that, but mass punishment because of one bad actor, I don't subscribe to that route, right?
No,
if you find 1 or 2 bad examples, we can go out and find 10 good examples, because the squeaky wheel is going to get the grease, right? Everyone's going to talk about that bad actor when there's, you know, multitude of others that are doing it the right way and are complying with the ordinances and doing it properly. You can build 1,000 bridges and be known as a bridge builder. But if one falls down, that's all you're going to be known for, right? So we have one bad actor, and that it's not the majority of people. So I understand your concerns, and they are absolutely valid.
What I'm saying is, and I hate to say this, I don't have a whole lot of faith that it will be policed the way it should be.
Right. And on that, we'll have to disagree on this, agree to disagree on that one, because I give a lot of trust and a lot of credence to staff. If there is an issue, let staff know and they'll address it as it needs to be.
Well,
but if they don't know about that issue, they can't address it. So if you know of an issue, let them know. And I'm sure, like any other professional staff, they will address it as they're allowed to, or as the ordinances deem appropriate.
okay.
I still don't know how I feel about chickens. I'm very opinionated, but this is the one that
I promised I wasn't going to be too
I can go either way.
I've had neighbors in town that have had them, and I had no issues with them. But I don't know how many they had. They may have just had, one or two, but we're limiting to 3.
Yeah, and I do like a lot of those, the limits. I know one of the complaints was, well, that's not even enough, they're not even gonna produce enough eggs for a whole family, and it's like,
That's their problem.
yeah, that's sort of their problem.
Yeah, that's when I first saw that 3. I thought that was a little low, but like I said, let's get our foot in the door. Sometimes you just got to start and test the waters a bit, and that's what I feel like this ordinance is. It's a test the water ordinance, because that half acre is really restrictive.
So every year when the permit expires, is the city going to go back to those people and say, hey, do you still have a permit? Or is it going to be on the homeowner to make sure they renew it every year?
We'll be checking renewals.
Because and that would be the thing, that I would really want to make sure that we feel as a city that we can do the enforcement, because that is my concern. I had that sort of similar concern, who's going to really actually enforce it and go out and make sure, because I envision some people thinking they want chickens and then realizing really quickly they don't actually want chickens when it's like -5 outside and you got to go out there and take care of your chickens, and then it just becomes this empty building on their lot where they aren't doing anything.
I think that half acre lot is going to, think about it, that's probably less than 10% of the lots in town. Maybe.
Could answer
I'm
that.
speculating here, but there aren't that many that
I
are half acre.
could try, not
or
tonight,
bigger.
but I could try.
Yeah.
There just aren't that many.
The last provision in here is a provision to revoke. And once you get revoked, you can't get a new permit. So if you have an issue and you're revoked, and there are penalties in here for not following the ordinance, just like with any other property maintenance. If I have a dog that's barking, I'm going to get a noise ordinance or a dog barking violation, or if I have trash, or if I have any other nuisance on my property, it's there.
So you let the chickens out to roam free in the yard, that
Yeah.
would violate the ordinance.
Right.
So
What if the neighbor dog gets in and eats somebody's chickens? Then who's in trouble?
You're gonna have a lawsuit.
that seems like a civil matter between the two parties
Okay.
that the city should not participate in.
All right, excellent. I like that answer. Maybe what I would be in favor of then is it be put back on the agenda for us to vote whether or not to, because what we've been asked is to make some kind of recommendation to the alderman, right?
Yeah, there is not, tonight is not
Right.
prepared ordinance, it is
Right.
comment.
Because what I would like to see is another public here, nobody came to the last one. There weren't pro-chicken people, there weren't anti-chicken people. We can't just put it in,
So
bless the Courier Tribune, but it can't just be
Right.
there. It's gotta be way more advertised than that, so that people know when they
Yeah.
come.
And I don't know how well it was advertised last time, but pushing it out on social media, and there's some players out there. There's people that are against it. There's some people that are for it, letting them know and see. But you know, when people don't show up, that speaks volumes as well.
I think they mostly didn't
Just didn't
know.
The other thing is, planning and zoning is a recommendation board, and the board of
Right.
aldermen is the.
Yeah.
And there's a public hearing, the way we do it, we have a public hearing at both of them, so.
Yeah.
If someone were to pick one meeting versus another, the board of aldermen would be the one that you.
Yeah. I mean, it is a zoning issue. It is a land use issue, so it definitely falls with our purview to really kind of, to hash that out. And I don't know if the board of aldermen are really looking for us to work on that and get those conversations started so they have some idea. But I think it's good to always get as much public participation as possible. So having multiple public hearings and getting as many people out and getting their comments on the record, that's vital to good governance, for or against anything. So
I definitely wanted to hear from people. So I was very bummed when nobody came to the last one. So I was like, because I don't have like I said, I'm right on the fence.
yeah.
I can really see both sides. I don't really want my neighbors to have them. I'm not gonna lie. But I say that, but maybe I would think the chickens were super cute if they were over there. I don't know.
And I kind of fall on that, this is Shannon's personal opinion. If you want a 40-acre view, you better buy 40 acres. If you don't want chickens next to you, you better buy property next to you. Again, back to the individual property rights. If I want a couple chickens, I don't see them any more disruptive than a couple dogs.
Barking dog.
Yeah, and that was one of the comments made by the real estate agent. Well, my dog's going to bark at chickens.
Yeah.
Well, control your dog. I've had a dog that would bark at the wall. So, and I didn't leave my dog outside. We've all had neighbors that have left that dog outside and just let them bark. There is some personal responsibility with your dog.
The 6-foot privacy fence, I think, was also something someone wasn't like, could they be required to have like a bigger fence than the normal, like 4
I don't know what
foot?
that would solve.
I don't know, less vision for
My
the
dog
dog to
barks
see.
at the dog next door through a 6-foot privacy fence.
My dog barks through the.
It'd be part of the permit.
Yeah, I sit on a walkout lot that oversees.
That's the thing, right? Yes. that's
It's ineffective.
True. I would be able to see over the fence. on
Yeah,
top
it's
of my deck.
ineffective. So I don't know, adding that restriction on there really solves much other than just one more restriction.
I'm in favor of another public.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I don't think I was here for the last meeting when this happened, so I was,
So I would make a motion that we have staff bring back a public hearing with ordinance and additional public notification.
Same language here or anything different?
I mean, if I were to recommend anything, I'd lessen the restrictions, but I don't know. I think that's what the public hearing will help us understand. We can always amend it at the public hearing,
right.
so.
I second that motion.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, that carries. That was odd. Old business, David, you got anything for old business?
No.
How's the permits looking?
They were way down last year compared to the prior year.
Every place is
That's the
down.
I
trend.
mean,
Yeah. Are you guys seeing the same thing in Lee Summit?
Yeah.
what is that, you think the mortgage rate?
It's housing stock, mortgage rates, a little bit. I mean, the mortgage rates are still historically low in the comparison of mortgages. 70s, 80s, it was 20%. So a 7% mortgage rate is still historically low. It's not the 2s and 3s that we were seeing. We are seeing construction costs and just inventory and supply chain issues. You used to factor in 2 to 3% escalation per year on construction costs. Now we're factoring 2 to 3% a month.
Right.
Stuff that was costing a couple $1 million last year, or you could double that. It's crazy what stuff costs now. It's just, but yeah, it's a trend across the board. We were down as well.
So does that mean maybe house prices will go down to be more
House prices will
reasonable?
never go down.
I mean, it's
They'll
fine
go
for me,
down,
I
but
live
they're-
in my home, but like,
They're not gonna go down to,
They won't go down to 2018.
no.
or
The-
2009, I bought my first house in 2009, right after the market
Oh,
went down.
I was right there. I bought a condo in 2007, 2008. I sold it 15 years later for $200 more than I bought it.
Oh,
15
we bought our
years.
house in 2009 for less than what the original owners bought it for.
At one point,
We timed it just,
Mhm.
I got
Pure
cut in
luck.
half on my value. And I sold it for $200 more than I bought it for 15 years later. It was a condo
yeah,
market, pretty.
But you also owned it and were able to sell it, and
Yeah.
yeah.
was it like you were
And
just
then
renting?
I bought this house. I've been there 8 years now, and it's almost doubled,
Just worry
which is
about all the,
crazy to me.
we don't build any first-time homeowner houses anymore. I just think about all those young people that are not gonna move into Kearney, which I guess is fine, but,
Yeah,
That's been
there's
the way
so much that goes into the
25
fact of
years
that.
well, right, the builders, I get it why they're building the big houses, right? They're making more
But
money, and that's their.
it's not even
prerogative.
that. Their profit margins are still the
The
same. A linear foot of infrastructure is a linear foot of infrastructure. So if you have 70-foot minimum wide lots and you've got it costs you so much to build that street, costs you so much to build all that infrastructure. We're now it's a population's over 10,000, so now we're going to get into stormwater treatment, federal stormwater regulations, which is just going to drive that cost up even more. There's just so much to go to it. You can't build a $300,000 house anymore. It's just
I was thinking, like, what about the $150,000 house?
the only thing you can build for $150,000 would be a condo, maybe a 2-bedroom, 1,200 square foot condo
That's
in
my,
a multifamily building. And even then, that's a push. It's just not,
right. The good old days.
yeah.
My first house was $21,000 with a 6% loan.
I would love to have a $21,000 house.
Huh?
It was rough.
Yeah, my folks thought I was nuts.
Yeah, see, I guess it's all relative.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, motion to adjourn.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
I.
Aye.
All those opposed?